teeth champing with rage, and the fair cheeks blazing red with passion. But the Count, never did I imagine such wrath and fury, even to the demons of the pit.
I love this guy, dude. Reapers, what is good? It's your boy Laser. You guys are in the vibes. We're back with some more scary action videos. If you love this scary content, so I continue to do that for you guys in the video. In this video, we're gonna be reacting to the scariest mythical monsters, guys. There's so many mythical monsters that we are glad aren't real. Like, bro, if they were real, we would be fucking doomed. Now, but if you guys enjoy scary content and you guys want more scary videos like this in the future, so please hit that like button. You subscribe. Hit notifications. It only takes less than a second. Let's dive straight into this video.
Begin our journey. Number 5, The Woman in Black.
Oh, bro, there's like a whole movie on this shit.
Gothic horror novel, The Woman in Black. A lawyer named Arthur Kipps is called to a small town in England to settle the estate of Mrs. Alice Drablow, known as the Eel Marsh House.
I hate how he kept her like right behind him. That's fucking creepy.
He sees a mysterious woman in black who the local children seem equally concerned by. After some detective work and putting up with several appearances by the woman in black, Arthur discovers that she is the ghost of Mrs. Drablow's sister, Jeanette. She had a child out of wedlock who her sister adopted, but one day a carriage carrying the young boy sank in the marshes. Jeanette died soon after and began to haunt the house and the town as the Woman in Black, often appearing as a dark omen, meaning that the family that saw her would soon lose a child. The Woman in Black is a terrifying figure for both her tragic origin and the lengths she seems willing to go to for revenge. The story has been adapted for the stage, in the second longest running play in West End history, as well as a couple film adaptations, with the most recent one starring Daniel Radcliffe as Arthur. But it all started with one terrifying book. Here's an excerpt from the text for you to enjoy. The passage led only to 3 other bedrooms on either side, and one by one, regaining my nerve as I went, I opened them and looked inside each one. Nothing. Only heavy old furniture and empty unmade beds, and, in the rooms at the back of the house, moonlight. I reached the door at the very end of the passage. This was the door without a keyhole, the door I had been unable to open on my first visit. I had no idea what was beyond it, except the sound. It was coming from within that room. It was a sound of something bumping gently on the floor in a rhythmic sort of way. A familiar sort of sound, and yet one that I still could not exactly place. I steadied my now racing heart and reached for the door handle I knew to be locked. Then, from somewhere out of the—
Bro, I don't know why, but I feel like this motherfucker would be in like a Harry Potter movie. I don't know why. Like the person talking
came a cry to my ears, catapulting me back into the present.
She screamed like she having an orgasm or some shit.
To reach for the locked door. I listened hard. Nothing. The tumult of the wind like a banshee, and the banging and rattling of the window in its old, ill-fitting frame. Then yes, again, a cry. That familiar cry of desperation and anguish. A cry for help from a child somewhere out on the marsh. There was no child. I knew that. How could there be? Yet how could I stand here and ignore even the crying of some long-dead ghost? Rest in peace, I thought. But this poor one did not. Could not. After a few moments, I turned. I knew what I had to do. I would fetch the axe from downstairs and discover once and for all what was hiding in this locked room. As I ventured down the landing towards the stairs, Spider the dog following me at once, 2 things happened together. I had the impression of someone who had just that very second before gone past me on their way from the top of the stairs to one of the other rooms, and as a tremendous blast of wind hit the house so that it all but seemed to rock at the impact, the lights went out. I had not bothered to pick up my torch, and now I stood in the pitch blackness, unsure.
Bro, I hate that smirk she's giving.
Number 4, Dracula. Dracula is such an enduring character in fiction to the point
vampires. I love vampires, dude.
Being parodied or diluted to the point where it can be difficult to remember how terrifying he really is. Appearing in the 1897 novel by Bram Stoker, Count Dracula is of course a vampire living in Transylvania who engages this—
Bro, they need to make like a game off Dracula. Like, I think there is there a game out there? I don't even fucking know, but they need to make a game off him because like his story is just so interesting. I fucking love vampires, guys. They're so fucking interesting.
Plans to make the move to England in order to find fresh prey, and is using Harker not only for the purpose of buying a home, but so that he can learn as much as he can about England before going. Because he has become the iconic vampire in the years since, it may surprise you to learn that he was a revolutionary new take on the creature when he was first created. Before Dracula's publication, vampires were usually portrayed as repulsive, corpse-like creatures, making the Count's handsomeness, as well as his veneer of charm and sophistication, all the more terrifying, as he could pass almost undetected and charm his way into your home home in a way that classic vampires couldn't. In addition to his blood-sucking, Dracula possesses super strength equivalent to 20 men, the ability to cast hypnotic or illusionary spells. He can vanish and reappear at will, can command animals like bats, rats, and wolves, as well as transform into such creatures. As a vampire, he is of course very difficult to defeat, being unable to go into the sun without losing his powers. However, unlike later versions, the sun does not burn him to ash. He is defeated in the end of the novel by being decapitated by a knife, not by having a stake driven through his heart, as you may assume. Here's an excerpt from Dracula, where the Count interrupts his brides from feeding on
That's
Jonathan.
such a good drawing,
I was conscious
dude.
of the presence of the Count,
His eyes look
and
like he
of
was
his
stoned, though.
being as I laughed in a storm of
bloody
fury.
eyes.
As my eyes opened involuntarily, I saw his strong hand grasp the slender neck of the fair woman, and with a giant's power, draw
Slender
it
neck,
back. The
that's a
blue
new
eyes
term.
transformed with fury, the white teeth champing with rage, and the fair cheeks blazing red with passion. But the Count, never did I imagine such wrath and fury,
Bro.
even to the demons of the pit. His
I love
eyes
this
were
guy, dude.
positively blazing. The red light in them was lurid, as if the flames of hellfire blazed behind them. His face was deathly pale, and the lines of it were hard like drawn wires. The thick eyebrows that met over the nose now seemed like a heaving bar of white-hot metal. With a fierce sweep of his arm, he hurled the woman from him, and then motioned to the others, as though he were beating them back. It was the same imperious gesture that I had seen used to the wolves. In a voice which, though low and almost in a whisper, seemed to cut through the air and then ring round the room, he said, "How dare you touch him, any of you? How dare you cast eyes on him when I had forbidden it? Back, I tell you all, this man belongs to me. Beware how you meddle with him, or you'll have to deal with me." "Are we to have nothing tonight?" said one of them in a low laugh, as she pointed to the bag which he had thrown upon the floor, and which moved as though there was some living thing within it. For answer, he nodded his head. One of the women jumped forward and opened it. If my ears did not deceive me, there was a gasp and a low wail, as of a half-smothered child. The woman closed round whilst I was aghast with horror, but as I looked, they disappeared, and with them, the dreadful bag. Number 3. Cthulhu. First appearing in a
I don't like
1928
this.
short story by H.P. Lovecraft, featured in the Weird Tales pulp magazine, in Call of Cthulhu, we learn that the creature is a malevolent entity who is imprisoned in hibernation in an underwater city in the South Pacific. He's the object of worship for many other Lovecraftian monsters, as well as the human cults appearing in his stories.
Guys, just this completely random, but can we not talk about how good this guy is at like narrating? Like this bro, he's fucking amazing at this shit.
He is said to be the source
He's
of
actually, like, so
constant
interesting.
subconscious anxiety for all of mankind, which, if true, makes me have a real bone or two to pick with this entity. Although currently trapped in hibernation, it is only a matter of
Did that motherfucker just say boner, bro? I mean, shit.
time
Damn.
before he returns to claim the souls of humanity and reawaken the other great old ones, at which point he will reclaim the universe.
Bro,
The
those
sight
fucking
of the
eyes
creature
are-
is enough to drive a man
Hell
to
no.
madness, but descriptions are given by Lovecraft in the following passage from Call of Cthulhu. The thing cannot be described. There is no language for such abysms of shrieking and immemorial lunacy, such eldritch contradictions of all matter, force, and cosmic order. A mountain walked or stumbled. It seemed to be a sort of monster, or symbol representing a monster, of a form which only a diseased fancy could conceive. If I say that my somewhat extravagant imagination yielded simultaneous pictures of an octopus, a dragon, and a human caricature, I shall not be unfaithful to the spirit of the thing. A pulpy, tentacled head surmounted a grotesque and scaly body with rudimentary wings, but it was the general outline of the whole which made it most shockingly frightful. Number 2, the Headless Horseman.
Oh,
Variations
dude.
of the Headless Horseman have
Headless
appeared
Horseman,
many
I've seen so
times
many
over the
movies about
years,
this shit.
such as the demonic fairy.
Bro, why does the horse like? Are we not gonna talk about how the horse literally looks like he's nutting and shit? Like, look at his fucking face, dude. Look at those fucking tasty ass lips. Look at his eyes, bro. More stoned, like more red than fucking being stoned and
Irish
shit.
myth known as the Dullahan, and is also similar to the elements from the Arthurian legend Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. But the version we will be looking at today is the Headless Horseman who appears in the 1820 short story
They be
The
doing them
Legend of
wrong in these
Sleepy
pictures.
Hollow by Washington Irving. The Headless Horseman is said to be a Hessian trooper from the Revolutionary War whose head was taken off by a cannonball. He then began haunting the
Cannonball?
woods, looking for his head and attacking unsuspecting travelers. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow tells of Ichabod Crane, a schoolteacher trying to woo a farm girl at a party who comes across the horseman on his way home. The story is slightly ambiguous about whether the horseman is real or if it is Ichabod's romantic.
Guys, they copied Roblox. Roblox came up with the Headless Horseman. Come on now.
Rival in disguise, but either way, the Horseman has become an enduring figure in American literature. Here is a passage from the short story. It was the witching time of night when Ichabod traveled homeward. All the ghost stories that he had ever heard over the years now came crowding upon his recollection. The night grew darker. The stars seemed to sink deeper in the sky. He had never felt so lonely. A splash by the side of a bridge caught his ear. In the dark shadow, he beheld something huge, misshapen, black and towering. The hair rose upon his head. He stammered, "Who are you?" He received no reply. The shadowy object put itself in motion and bounded into the middle of the road. It appeared to be a horseman of large dimensions, mounted on a black horse of powerful frame. Ichabod quickened his steed in hopes of leaving the mysterious horseman behind. The stranger, however, quickened to an equal pace. The odd silence of Ichabod's companion was soon fearfully accounted for upon seeing his fellow traveler in relief against the sky, gigantic in height and muffled in a cloak, Ichabod was horror-struck to perceive that he was headless, and that he carried his head before him on his saddle. In desperation, Ichabod rained kicks upon gunpowder. The spectre followed close behind. Away they dashed, stones flying. An opening in the trees now cheered him with the hope that the church bridge was at hand, the place where legend said the horseman should stop. Ichabod cast a look behind to see if his pursuer would vanish. Instead, he saw the goblin rising up in his stirrups, in the very act of hurling his head at him. Ichabod tried to dodge the horrible missile, but too late. It encountered his cranium with a tremendous crash. He tumbled into the dust, and gunpowder and the goblin rider passed by like a whirlwind. The next morning, the old horse was found quietly cropping grass at his master's gate. The students were assembled at the schoolhouse, but no schoolmaster arrived. The tracks of horses' hoofs, dented in the road, were traced to the bridge. On the bank was found the hat of the unfortunate Ichabod, and close behind it, a shattered pumpkin.
Dude, I just find it interesting how his head was taken off by like a cannonball. Like, I didn't even know that. That's actually very interesting. Like, I know the horseman isn't actually real, but it's still like an interesting story. Like, I've always been interested in that type of shit, dude.
It. The title
Number
antagonist
one.
of Stephen King's
Oh yeah, Pennywise.
novel, It is one of the most
The
terrifying
molesting
he's ever
clown
come up with,
that goes for
and
children.
that's saying a lot,
Pedophile.
considering his output. It is an ancient evil, trans-dimensional entity that attacks the children of Derry, Maine every 27 years before
Mr.
hibernating
Molester.
until the next cycle. It has reality-altering powers, being able to change its victim's surroundings as well as its own appearance in order to take the shape of whatever its victim is most afraid of. Its true form is described as being similar to that of a giant spider, and it takes the forms of a few different creatures, such as a wolfman.
You guys want to know what I'm scared of? Me looking at myself in the mirror.
And a leper, and even a swarm of flying leeches. But one of its favorite forms to assume is that of Pennywise the dancing clown. In the following passage from the novel, one of the children, Ben, comes across Pennywise for the first time. The balloons still appeared to be floating towards him. It had to be a hallucination or a mirage brought on by some weird trick of the weather. There could be a man down there on the ice. He supposed it was even possible that he could be wearing a clown suit. But the balloons couldn't be floating towards Ben into the wind. Yet that was just what they appeared to be doing. Ben! The clown on the ice called. Ben thought that voice was only in his mind, although it seemed to be heard with his ears. Want a balloon, Ben? There was something so evil in that voice, so awful, that Ben wanted to run away as fast as he could, but his feet seemed as welded to the sidewalk as the teeter-totters in the schoolyard were to the ground.
Bro, this guy is coming up with phrases I didn't even hear of, like teeter-totters, what the fuck? I mean, shit, I've heard of tater tots, that shit's yummy as shit, but...
They float, Ben. They all float. Try one and see. The clown began walking along the ice towards Canal Bridge where Ben stood. Ben watched him come, not moving. He watched as a bird watches an approaching snake. The balloons should have burst in the intense cold, but they did not. They floated above and ahead of the clown when they should have been streaming out behind him, trying to escape back into the barrens, where some part of Ben's mind assured him this creature had come from in the first place. Now Ben noticed something else. Although the last of daylight had struck a rosy glow across the ice of the canal, the clown cast no shadow. None at all. With that, our journey into the horrible creatures of literature has come to a close.
Damn, that's crazy.
The dark forces that run this evil dimension have asked that I remind you to like, comment, and subscribe, lest they be forced to feed.
Guys, so the actor of Pennywise, believe it or not, I'm not talking about the old Pennywise, I'm talking about the new one. His name is Bill or whatever. He was fucking traumatized from that role. Like, that shit, literally, he had nightmares about that shit, apparently. Like, it just shows you how much work goes into these roles with these actors, dude. Like, you gotta give them the respect. That shit is not fucking easy. And some people say it's easy. That shit is not fucking easy, dude. But yeah, that's it. Well, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Guys, which mythical creature scared you the most? Like, thank God they aren't real. Now, if you guys enjoy the scary content, you guys want more scares like this in the future, you guys know what to do. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace!